Welcome to Formosa Dream Chasers
We're your hosts, Mary Ann.
and Ching-en.
Please join us as we explore the journeys amazing people take in pursuit of their dreams.
And get insights from their experiences
Let's hit the road.
and get started.
Welcome to Formosa Dream Chasers. In this episode series, we highlight the incredible journeys of Taiwan's creative minds as we sit down and chat with prominent metal artist Mr. Johnny Chen. Last week, he shared with us how his interest with illustration began. Today, we learn how from training in graphic design, he transitioned and started blending his Taiwanese heritage into his metal art.
And starting to appreciate my homeland a bit more. I think it's very interesting. You only start appreciating your own country or culture after you've seen other culture.
After you leave.
Yeah. You know? So I really wanted to bring that back here. Yeah, I was a bit ashamed of myself of thinking less about Taiwan, but it's a process, so I don't blame it. But it really taught me to have more gratitude. Like, for example, when I was younger, I hoped for chaos. But now seeing what chaos do to people, I'm like really grateful how safe we are here in Taiwan. It is amazing. Yeah. Going to Bangkok really just like opened up my creative process as well, because you see so many people, you hear a lot of different stories and ideology, and especially when you're young. So it's like opening myself up to a brand new world, and I see the world different entirely.
But now we know that you are not just working on graphic design, right? You are also working on metal arts. So how did you get started working with metal? It's not a medium that we usually think of when we think of arts. So what was your motivation to start?
The metal art I do is a little bit different from the classic metal kind of artwork. It's different from like 铁工, because there's a lot of soldering, welding, or other things going on. In actual metal art, it's usually more like sculpture work. And my whole foundation was based on illustration, so drawing. And even when I was studying in design, I always get through or solve a lot of problem with my drawings and illustration. So it has been my essential weapon. So when I was in Bangkok, one of my classmates asked me to draw his pops like a birthday picture. And that's what I did. It was just simple sketching. And later on, turns out his father runs a metal supply factory, and they had workers who grind patterns onto the metal surface. That's what they do day to day. And he also saw some people on the internet creating more artsy patterns and pieces with a grinder machine onto a metal sheet. So he invited me to try out the grinder machine for drawing. He wanted to also develop his own like product and try to help artists to sell. I think he wanted to do more than just metal supply. He wanted to be able to generate some special pieces with metal with the help of like people who can draw, and to maybe sell them to hotels or different places. And that's what I did. And right away, the first time I tried, it was just absolutely amazing, because it's still based on illustration. So all this wouldn't happen if I didn't kept up and practice drawing. So yeah, I am recognized more as a metal artist right now, because most of my artworks, the ones I put out there, are on metal illustration. But actually, I am just a illustration artist, because I can still work on a lot of illustrations beyond metal, but metal as of now is just a topic I've been focusing on.
That's your
for
current
this moment.
medium.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's my current medium.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you will always continue this, because as an
Yeah.
artist you grow and mature,
Yeah.
and your art will also flow accordingly. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. But I did get more and more attracted to metal, and also getting into techniques and skills that's a little bit beyond illustration. So yeah, let's see where it takes me.
Okay. Could you share with us a little bit about your creative process? Because you say that your background is in illustration. So first of all, how do you get inspired? And then when you have an idea of what you want to create, how do you plan out the creation process? Like, how do you transfer that, illustration in your mind to the metal sheet or the metal product?
Quite simple in my own perspective. Just draw the things out. You would sketch out your blueprint, and then you will try out some of the angles on the metal. That's what I used to do, but right now, pretty much the same process. So having been drawing on metal sheet for a long time, I kind of already know which angle creates what kind of effect. So definitely now I spend less time than before. And creative process, I like to draw inspiration from maybe from science or from interesting topics, things that I resonate with, or things that I find, beautiful. It could be an article, it could be a picture, it could be some sort of ideas. So I guess I just draw inspiration from life in general.
Okay. Here's the question. Because if you sketch, you're using pencil and paper. You can use an eraser when you make a mistake, right? Yeah. But when you're grinding things on metal, what happens when you make a mistake? How do you, fix it?
Well, the first thing you do, the first thing I do after making a mistake is swear words. Swear words come first.
Can you actually salvage it? I'm really curious because on metal, once you scrape the surface, this isn't something I'm familiar with. I don't know if you can clean it out or something.
Not really, unless you just smooth out the whole surface. But that would be a disaster as well. So when I was creating metal artwork, I spent more time preparing to, put my hands down onto it. I spend more time doing that because you can't really make a mistake. Obviously, when there's a mistake, I can fix it thanks to the skill that built up. As an artist or as a designer, whenever you make a mistake, everyone has their own way of fixing it, twisting it, making the mistake into a beautiful miracle or something like that. But I would tone down the possibility of making a mistake because metal is kind of tough. So yeah, I spend more time holding the grinder, staring at the metal. It's kind of like sports when athletes would imagine themselves on the track. That's what I do as well.
You visualize it
I
first.
Visualize it. I think about it, and then
Do you play music when you're actually working, or do you prefer silence?
I play music.
Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes, rarely though. But sometimes I would just work without music.
Okay.
I actually don't know why, but yeah. I guess it's nice to have to just hear the motor and the material itself sometimes.
Where do you do this art?
So back in Thailand, obviously they had a factory space for me to work on. And when I started back in Taiwan, it's definitely best if you have a factory space for these kind of
it's
machine.
Noisy, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit loud.
Yeah, but I started in my balcony.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so that was quite fun and very hot as well. But yeah, I started doing the artworks in my balcony and also in my friend's garage. And then later on, I had another job at a underground music club. So I've been doing it there. In daytime, that would be my art studio. And at nighttime, it would be house music or a techno music club. And I really enjoyed that, actually. Yeah, it's just music, art.
If I can ask a question, you don't have to give specifics. But I'm wondering, when you're in Thailand, and your friend's father was technically commissioning you to do certain pieces for him, right? So does that mean you were working on a commission basis? For people who are interested in being an artist, right? I'm just wondering, how does commission work? What are the specifics of it? Do you guys just agree on a set price and then you produce a product? Or is it you get a percentage?
Well, when I was in Thailand working on the metal piece, I actually didn't charge any money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was still studying in university, and they gave me a space. They gave me a metal easel as well, and provided me with tools and machine for me to develop something. And so I didn't really ask for any money. They also didn't offer, but
okay.
but in my head, I still think
it was a good experience.
I still think it's great because they're just giving me free stuff to create cool stuff, and I use those work for my school as well. So it's a win-win situation. So I didn't really think too much about the money. The commission really comes when I was back in Taiwan, when I really decided to pursue this route. The commission part really hit when that happened because I spent my whole life just drawing, perfecting the aesthetics and everything. Didn't have much thought about pricing and negotiation. So I had some friends growing up, and he studied in business. We always talked about doing stuff together or business together back when we were in high school. Back in those days, they might sound childish or it's just bro talk, but we actually made it happen. So I called him in. His name is Anthony. He's here as well.
Okay.
Shout out Anthony. So I had to call him in. I know he's sharp with numbers, and I know he has like good negotiation skills. So that's how I started. And so I let him handle the
Business side of
commissions and
things.
business side. I do think that helped a lot because everybody would try to guilt trip you or like, you
Yeah.
know, try to get on your good side, you know, asking for a little favor,
Like a
little
discount.
favor piece. Yeah, discount. But nah, you got to pull out the good cop, bad cop game sometimes to not, you know, overstress yourself.
That brings up a good point where, like, in any job or specialization, you're good at one thing, but if you suddenly want to turn it into business, you have to acquire other skills, like business skills, right? That, let's say, for example, if you're an artist, you're just focused on creating, and now suddenly to make this a sustainable activity, you now have to look into, like, I gotta negotiate, I gotta
Yeah.
learn sales, I gotta learn people skills.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're an artist, like, sometimes you just want to be in that space where you're just creating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. But the world is cruel. Like you'll have to. Either way, I guess luck plays into a factor sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people might have a different scenario from others, but let's assume you don't have anything. You'll definitely have to study other categories. And also, this is what I wanted to tell Taiwanese artists. There's a lot of great works out there, and if you're seen in the right places, you might just like pop off or anything. But if you don't have that sort of opportunity, you could draw inspiration from different businesses as well. Just talk to more people. Art is not just like art. Drawing, like I find art in a lot of different things. I think it's just like a way of life. It's a cliche saying, but it is true. Art isn't like, you know, your way of life. Doesn't matter if you recognize it or not. I still see that in some people. For example, people working with their own sort of like ethic or their own sort of like ways in different industry. Maybe they're just cooking noodles, but I would also consider that art in a way because there's precision in it and there's dedication into it and there's soul and heart. I think whenever you put soul and heart to something, I would say it's a way it can resonate with art more. So I think just talk to a lot of different people and who works in different industries. Obviously not all of them will help your creative process, but you will definitely draw a lot of good content out of these conversations because knowledge contains a lot of power. So it depends on how you digest these.
Can we get back to the question about your art creation? You mentioned that you kind of was inspired by Taiwanese culture, and I was wondering what elements or what are the image that you put on your art?
For example, Taiwan culture. I would say definitely our natural habitat plays a big role. Like I said, I really like animals and I like to go sightseeing when I was a kid, go to mountains and maybe have, you know, camp nights. And there's always like a lot of wildlife involved. And also because my family is Buddhism and Taoism, so all these temples definitely play the most essential role because temple and religious art is just so powerful. And I was always like fascinated about these kind of things and just the stories that I read, you know, like history back in the days, you know, like how we got here and sort of like this Asian culture and mythology topics is always a deep influence in my creative process because at first it started with not too much reason because I mean it's religion, we have respect for these kind of things, and also it is just beautiful to look at religious art. And I would used to read like Buddhist stories about hell, about heaven, and we had these illustration books that showed us all these like pictures, and they're all hand drawn by artists, and these books would have like all these images and stories just showing you like, oh, this is hell and there's like fire, people in pain, or there's also like, you know, in heaven everything is glowing and nice. So I draw a lot of inspiration from these kind of things.
Since you mentioned earlier you came back to Taiwan from Bangkok, and then that's when you started to really focus on your work here. How long would you say you have been working in this sector?
2 years, almost 3 now. Yeah, so first exhibition started in 2022 when I just came back, and that was also, you know, during COVID, and had to leave Bangkok, which was very, very sad. So I came back, I had to get a job to just have some monthly allowance for myself. I was working in the kitchen cooking Japanese food. It was really fun as well. I love cooking. This one day, this photographer asked me if I had one of those metal art pieces because he probably saw the ones I had when I was in Thailand. And I didn't have any, but he wanted to do a exhibition together. And so I immediately bought some boards and a grinder machine and started to create some pieces. And it went pretty well. The reaction was really nice. Also, I had people asking, hey, how much? And that's why I reached out to my friend to collaborate with me. And since then, there was still like a full 1.5 year period that I had to also have another part-time job to keep this thing up because, yeah, our industry in Taiwan is really, really tough. Art itself, it's a high-risk sort of job. So all these opportunities, they don't come as easy. So yeah, I had to work another job as well to maintain this art thing to go on.
So we started talking about Taiwan's art scene, and you say it's high risk. Could you elaborate more on that? In what sense?
For example, for all startup business, it's definitely a wise choice to get a loan from the bank or maybe to get help from the government. But banks definitely would be more friendly to industries that promises like a stable income. But art, obviously, it's not. So they really are hesitant about lending a loan to creative businesses. And I think that's just the way it is so far. And yeah.
What would you also say are the challenges of being an artist here in Taiwan?
I don't want to offend anyone
Sure.
here, but quite frankly, nobody really cares about art in Taiwan. Not a lot of people. Like, there's definitely people working hard for it and, you know, try to change. And it has been changing. And recently, it has been getting better and better. People recognize art a bit more. But in general, nobody really cares. I think it's a cultural thing. Like, this just doesn't make sense. Back in the day, like, what is art gonna do? It doesn't feed families. So I understand why people don't take it so seriously. But I see a different perspective. For example, when I look at countries or places that has a good sense of art, or when the art culture is booming, I think it opens up a lot of people's heart. It opens up people's way of thinking. And that in some way helps a lot of different other industries. I think the importance of acknowledging the value of art is that art allows you to think outside of box. It allows you to think more. And when you think more, you have a better chance to create things that are better. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, art can work as a booster for culture and society in general. That's my take.
It sounds like the art scene in Thailand is more vibrant, much more vibrant than in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Can you do a comparison and maybe give us some feedback? Like, what can we do to improve it in education, in our government system, and in supporting artists in Taiwan?
Good question. This is a huge topic to get into, but I'd also need to dig into a lot more like policy-wise thing to really answer this question truly. But in general, I think the problem is that art itself is not recognized properly. So I would say my advice to the government is to open up to more conversations and discussions with young artists, with different artists. Because right now the problem is the topics that we have are all dull and boring, and they're just, you know, it has been the same for like decades. There's nothing new. So I think definitely opening more resources to artists and designers, or else they're just going to go to Europe and England or to wherever. They're just going to ditch you behind because you don't give them the right environment or the right platform to work on art. But I know the Taiwanese government is trying as well. And like things like budgets is more complicated. There's a lot of other aspects you have to think about. But I would say open up to local artists. Like I would say like listen to what they have to say. Try to get to know what is going on in the art scene globally and locally as well. Yeah, I think understanding is the most important. Open up more opportunities, like I guess communicate.
We're looking at this from the top-down approach, from the government down. But from your viewpoint, how are you as an artist able to communicate to the government?
This is my own point of view here, and I don't know if everyone would agree with it, but I do think in this case, you have to know what matters to most to the government. If you think about it, they have like
They also have their goals and
they
metrics.
they have their goals to meet. So sometimes you have to think in a different way. And I think that will be challenging because I know a lot of artists would be like, why would I compromise my artistic thinking or value into your sort of like way. But for me, it's like, okay, I see the barrier. And how do I sort of satisfy that need and also input my own message or agenda?
That's all the time we have for today. Please remember to tune in next week as we dive deeper into how artists can work with government to achieve their mutual goals.
This is Ching and Cho.
And Mary Ann Shoko.
See you guys next week. Bye.